Hello, gladiators. Today is Thursday, October 22nd. We are going to review independent clauses today. Remember that an independent clause has both a subject, a noun, and a verb, a predicate. It makes a complete thought. It is a simple sentence. It can stand on its own. The athlete won. First place in the race. This is an independent clause. A dependent clause cannot live on its own. It has to attach to an independent clause to survive. A dependent clause has both a subject and a verb, but it is not a complete thought. It needs more sentence to make sense. For example, if you add the word after the athlete won first place in the race, now we do not have an independent sentence, we have a dependent sentence, which cannot live on its own. Something else has to happen. Dependent clauses have both a subject and a verb. They can start with a subordinating conjunction. They do not express a complete thought, and they need an independent clause added to make sense. You might have heard the most common subordinating conjunctions called awoobuses. It's just a funny little word to help you remember that there are three A's, two W's, one U, two B's, one I, and one S. And that sounds out awoobus. Awoobuses are subordinating conjunctions, the most common. After, although, as, when, while, until, because, before, if, and since. Some other subordinating conjunctions are unless, which, in case, and even though. If a phrase starts with a subordinating conjunction, it would be a dependent clause and should be attached to an independent clause either at the beginning or at the end, or maybe in the middle. So there is an ed puzzle that your teacher may have you complete. It goes along with this video to further instruct you on independent and dependent clauses and subordinating conjunctions. If you have not finished reading Complexity of Fear, the article, if you can please get that done. And then here are some questions that I would like for you to complete over the article, Complexity of Fear. So, what is fear according to the author, Mary C. Lamia? Think about it in using your APES strategy. So answer the question, what is fear according to the author? Provide some text evidence from the article to support what the author thinks fear is. Explain your answer in a few sentences and make sure you wrap up your paragraph in a special closing sentence. And you can do this on a sheet of paper or in your L&B. So what is the purpose of the first four opening sentences of the text above? As you are walking home alone late at night, you hear the soft crackling sound of someone or something stepping on dry leaves nearby. Your heart begins to race as you imagine who or what lurks in the shadows. Are you experiencing fear or anxiety? The differences between these emotions can be confusing. Based on these four first sentences, what do you suppose the purpose of this text is? A, to describe the setting of the article. B, to entertain readers with an exciting description. C, to draw readers in with an emotionally familiar scene. Or D, to detail the differences between fear and anxiety. Remember, these are the opening sentences. Two of these question answers will be correct. What is the best possible answer? Which of the following statements best categorizes phobias? So it would be wise of you to go back to the article, look to where they address phobias and see which statements best categorizes it. While many people consider phobias to be fears, they are more accurately categorized as anxiety disorders. B. Phobias are simply people's fears of specific everyday things and events, though many people do not understand them. C. While phobias may seem like fears or rational threats, they are actually irrational fears of non threatening situations or things. Or D. While many people consider phobias to be fears, phobias do not lead to avoidance behaviors and therefore cannot be considered fears. So reread paragraph 2 and answer the question, which of the following is an example of a reaction to fear? Remember, you can pause the video. You can access this information on the daily slides. Take your time and see if you can answer this question, with the possible answer choices being A. You get sweaty as you take a difficult test in class. Based on the information in paragraph 2, which of the following is a reaction to fear? B. You crouch and cover your head upon hearing a loud crash. C. You tense your shoulders because you realize you left your homework at home. Is that a reaction to fear? D. You cannot fall asleep because you worry about a test the next day. So there are two parts to this question. This is the first part. Which of the following best expresses the distinction between fear and anxiety? The difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is an evolutionary reaction to one's surroundings, while anxiety is a fearful response to a non-threatening situation. Or B, fear is something one can conquer, while anxieties, like phobias, are persistent and cannot be easily controlled or managed. C, fear is an emotional reaction to immediate danger, while anxiety is a long-lasting state of distress over anticipated threats. Or D, people can experience fear in life-threatening situations, while anxiety can happen to anyone at any time. I would go back into the passage, into the text, and look at where they discuss fear versus anxiety. Take each question. There are two parts to each question. Put a check over each statement that you think is accurate and which best answer expresses the distinction between fear and anxiety. After you have chosen your answer, decide which text evidence now best supports your chosen answer. A. These emotions can transfer into behaviors that may lead you to avoid situations or into defense mechanisms that may obscure the recognition of reality. And consequently, they have been understood as keys to dynamics of emotional illness. Now, there are a lot of big words in this article. It is very important that you take your time and read. If you find any word gaps, words that you were unfamiliar with, it's important to look them up or use your strategies to determine what synonyms you can replace that would make sense. B. Anxiety is a general state of distress that is longer lasting than fear and usually is triggered by something that is not specific, even though it produces physiological arousal, such as nervousness and apprehension. This is in paragraph 3. C. Thus, the presence of avoidance behaviors would indicate fear, would show fear. In contrast to anxiety, the difference is where a person may be very much on the alert but does not avoid the situation. That's in paragraph 3. And D, where anxiety is foreboding and puts you on alert to a future threat, fear immediately leads to an urge to defend yourself with escape from an impending disaster. Here are some discussion questions I'd like for you to answer in your L&B. Brainstorm your answers to the following questions in the space provided. Be prepared to share your original ideas in a class discussion. Is fear a good emotion or a bad emotion? Explain your answers using examples from your own life, as well as from the text. How does fear drive action? Use text evidence or your own experience, art, literature, or history in your answer. Now we'd like for you to complete this micro writing, go to Schoology, and answer the Overcoming Fear discussion post. Please write in complete sentences and elaborate with detail. And here is your prompt. Write about a time you overcame fear. And that's all we have for you today, gladiators. We hope you have a wonderful day.